We love the bookstore, obviously, even before we owned it. But we're Fairfax County kids. We're well-read. We love to read. When we were dating, every Friday night we went to a bookstore. So books were a big part of our life. And of course, with Bud being a teacher, as I'm sure you know, teachers pull money out of their own pocket to get supplies and books for kids. So he was very much a proponent of getting young people interested in reading. So that's how it all started.
Reston Digs, guess what? Today I have Susan Burwell of Reston Used Book Shop, and I'm super excited to have her here so we can learn a little bit about her story, her journey, and all about Reston's Used Book Shop, which is a place where I would bring my little girl to when she was little all the time, and we would read stories. So I'm super pumped to have you here. Thank you for joining me, Susan.
Well, and thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
Awesome. So tell me, how did you guys end up buying this bookshop? I went on the website. I noticed in 1999, I believe, is when you guys purchased it, right?
Right.
So how did all that come about?
Well, my husband, Bud, is a Fairfax County school teacher at the time, special ed teacher, special guy. And he spent a lot of time in that shop buying books for his students. And then they offered him a part-time job evenings and summers when school was out. So he worked there for several years. The original owners were the Sues. We call them the Sues, Sue Wenzel and Sue Schramm. And they're best friends, and they wanted to travel together, but they couldn't travel together because of the shop. So they approached us and asked us if we wanted to take it over. And we took a deep breath. Took us a couple of years to get our act together, but we were able to buy it in 1999. And then at that time, next door to our shop was a dry cleaners. So we cut a hole in the wall and doubled the space. And that's where we put the reading room so that you can sit down and read to your kids, or we can have events in that room. So it made a huge difference to expand the space.
Absolutely. I love going in that section. It's like a little nook and you get to sit down, you get to read. I love it. And so what did you do before that, Susan? What were you doing before you decided to buy a bookshop in Reston?
IT geek.
Really?
Now retired, yes.
Okay. Who did you work for?
Most recently, National Student Clearinghouse in Herndon.
Okay, wonderful. And so when you guys took this dive in, did you do it as kind of like part-time, or was it full-time? Or tell me a little bit about that.
We started, of course, part-time, and Bud was able to retire early, but it took a few years before I could retire. So we were just there on the weekends, and we had, several staff helping us out because we're open 7 days a week. So you need to have some staff to help you with that.
For sure. And so how many years has it been now? So we're talking 22, 23 years?
Yep.
Wow. So I'm sure you've seen Reston grow. You've seen Lake Ann change because you guys are right there in Lake Ann. So tell me a little bit about some of the changes that you've seen.
For Lake Ann?
For Lake Ann. Yeah.
Well, certainly the restaurants have changed over. We're in a perfect place. We're in between a French, Vietnamese restaurant. On the other side is a Mediterranean restaurant. Across the way, we have a new trail. That used to be the pharmacy. We were sorry to see that go. That was one of the original pharmacies. But now it's been renovated and it's filled in with beauty salon and a trail, new trail, biking, virtual biking. So things have changed. We got a coffee house now. We have a microbrewery. I think you've talked to Melissa.
Yeah.
And you've talked to Vicky next door at the Mediterranean shop. So it's very active in the summer. Of course, with COVID, it's a whole new story. Yeah.
It's a whole nother game.
Oh,
So how have you guys been navigating that this virtual world, and how are you making that work?
Well, very, very, very carefully. First of all, we, like everybody else, we closed in March. And then because we're a used bookshop, our inventory is not computerized. So we couldn't go online with sales. But we did set up, with the help of some staff and volunteers, curbside pickup. You could call and ask for a book and we would put it outside for you. And we had what's called bundles. If you are a mystery fan, we would, purchase or put together 3 mysteries that you like or 3 authors that you like. We did that for a couple of months. And then once the farmers market opened, much to our glee, they had very stringent, I don't know if you were there last summer, about the number of people they let in and the social distancing, et cetera. But that brings life to the plaza. So Bud and I started opening just on Saturdays during the farmers market. We didn't open 7 days until mid-August. So we're back open 7 days a week. Of course, we have mask mandates and gloves on hand and sanitizers on hand. But like you say, you've been inside the shop. It's small.
Yeah.
We can only allow 1 family or 5 people at a time. So, but people have been very, very cooperative. I'm very pleased about that. We have not been challenged at all. They're happy to wait outside. We have tables and chairs outside. They're happy to wait outside until somebody checks out before they come in. So I'm very pleased with the community's cooperation there.
Awesome.
So we're hanging in.
And you guys are the only game in town, right? There is no other bookshop. There are no, or are there?
There is one. There is a new one. It belongs to a friend of ours, Rachel Wood. She has Scrawl Books, and that's in Reston Town Center. And that's all new books.
Well, great. Well, you guys can
kind of the last, I think, 2 years, maybe. Yeah.
You guys can collaborate. Well, I remember when Barnes and Noble was there, where the Container Store is now, right? And obviously that went away some time ago, and I was always impressed that you guys were, you're like a pillar of the community. You've been there forever, and like the little train that could, you just keep going, right?
Keep going.
And so, when I was perusing your website, I noticed that people have the ability to swap books with you guys, sell books. Can you tell me a little bit about that program?
Well, again, because of COVID, we've changed the model a little bit. That we do it by appointment only now, because we have to, when books come in for purchase or trade credit, we have to put them in storage for at least 24 hours because of the virus. Mm. And we don't have any offsite storage. So we limited to 2 boxes per customer, and that it was only by appointment, so we could control the flow a little bit. But that's been working out. No complaints from customers. We're not getting the downsizing, bringing in 12 boxes anymore, thankfully. But so that's been working out.
Okay. Yeah. So what is an ideal, bundle of books that gets delivered to you guys? Like what is this is great. What would you guys like to see?
Well, first of all, we consider ourselves to have a eclectic category. We're not just the top 10 sellers. We have a lot of art books. We have a huge children's section, as you know. We have a section called Good Reading, because we thought labeling that as literature was too frou-frou. A lot of history. We have a lot of history. So Restonians are well read and well traveled. We have foreign language books for both adults and children. A lot of philosophy. So we've got many, many categories. Travel.
Do you still have that? If you give 3 books, you can get 1 book.
Yes.
Does that still? Okay.
And I think you'll see a picture. Someone gave us the old library catalog cabinet, and that we have your store credit on 3x5 cards stored in that cabinet, so you don't lose your store credit.
That's super cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
My daughter my daughter loves to read. That is
Good.
like, she's just a voracious reader, and she cleaned out her room the other day. Right, 18-year-old. She cleaned out her room. She's like, Dad, I've got this huge box of books.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, those books there's thousands of dollars worth of books, right? That's how I see it. And so
new books are expensive.
They're very expensive, like very expensive. And so when I saw that 3 for 1, I saw an opportunity we might be able to do some swapping. I didn't know that existed. So that's great. Are there any other programs that you would want to make us aware of that you guys have?
Well, if you prefer, we could give you store credit and cash as well. So the 3 for 1s. And we also, we're very much supportive of getting children interested in reading, especially young boys. And that's Bud's specialty. So he has some books that he always has on hand for kids when they say, I don't want to read. But have you read this? So the children can have their own store credit. So if they bring in their kid books that they've outgrown, and it's in excellent shape, we tell them they have to keep good shape of excellent shape of their books. They have their own store credit so that they can come back and buy more books.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I was a choose your own adventure. Like when I was Oh, that was my favorite. Choose your own adventure.
I can't keep those on the shelves even today.
I know. So much fun. And so I noticed that you guys pre-COVID had a lot of events, right? You'd have a lot of readings, you'd have events. Obviously, we're waiting for those days to come back. But can you tell me a little bit about the different events that you guys would have?
Sure. So we had a book club, a monthly book club. We had for 20 years, more than 20 years, we hosted a literature class by Ollie and George Mason. They had a year-round literature class that was in our reading room. Of course, they're going virtual now. I hope they come back soon. Also, what is still going on is we have two walls, reserved for League of Reston artists called Art in Public Places. So every quarter we have a new set of paintings or photographs. So on that wall, and that's still going on.
That's awesome.
For the past 3 years, we get contacted by a lot of local authors that really haven't been discovered yet. They don't know how to promote their own books that they've written. So we collaborated with Nathan Leslie, who is a English professor at Nova. And we set up a thing called Reston Readings. So before COVID, they were again hosted at the shop, and we always had standing room only for those events. And we're doing that virtually now, and that's been going on for 3 years. So we hope to get back to that in the fall. And what else? In the summer, of course, Lake Ann in the past has 4 festivals, one every month. But every Saturday, Bud is also a musician, and he knows a lot of musicians. So he schedules and hires. We have music outside the shop, in front of the shop every Saturday. We call it Saturday Market Music. And that is funded by Friends of Lake Ann, or also known as FOLA.
Okay.
What else? I think that's about it.
It really is about building community, right?
Absolutely.
It's about building, which is what Reston Digs is all about. It's for people to discover the very fabric of Reston and the community. And so I've always found that it was just a warm, like beautiful little nook that you could go in and lose yourself in. Where did this passion come from? How did you guys, decide? I mean, taking on and buying a bookstore is no, like that was no, I'm sure, easy decision. You said it took you a couple years, but how did that evolve, right? Where you guys said, you know what,
Well,
we're going to buy this bookstore, and this is why, and this is what we're going to do, right?
Well, we love the bookstore, obviously, even before we owned it. But we're Fairfax County kids. We're well-read. We love to read. When we were dating, every Friday night we went to a bookstore. So books were a big part of our life. And of course, with Bud being a teacher, as I'm sure you know, teachers pull money out of their own pocket to get supplies and books for kids. So he was very much a proponent of getting young people interested in reading. So that's how it all started. But I will say, we say this is a very pleasant way to make very little money. You don't do it for the money.
Yeah, it's a passion, right? It's to build connections.
It's not about the money.
Yeah, and build community, and you guys really have poured into many children, many families, many people through the years, right? And so, I want all of this COVID thing to go away so that people can really experience the very fabric of what that's like, right? Because virtual just doesn't cut it.
No. And fortunately, ebooks are not so popular anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the other thing I wanted to mention too about a bookstore, that we are never short of people that are interested in working for us. We never have to advertise for staff. They just come to us. We have probably a rotating group of, or have in the past, kids from college kids, and they come back to visit after they graduate from college. I mean, it's a whole big family. There's about 30 now that are past staffers. So it's a family place. Yeah.
So you've created community within everybody that's worked there, right, through the years. Very cool. And so is there anything that you would want the Reston community to know about you guys that we just haven't covered, we haven't discussed?
Well, I would like them to know that we're still here. I would like them to know, for people who think of a typical used bookshop that's dusty and dirty and old books, and we're very, very picky about our books. Many times people say, this is a used book? It looks new. But we only take in books that we can sell and books that are in good condition. So it's not just junky books. So we're very particular about that. So we're not your typical used books, but we're also not your typical antiquarian bookseller. There are other bookstores that specialize in that and know how to assess. I know an old book or a valuable book when I see one, but that's mostly on commission, and that's just not something we can handle right now. So it's mostly readers' copies, we call them.
Okay. Yeah. My mom is into the collecting of the rare books, right? And Bibles. And my parents were in the Foreign Service. So when I walk through their house, it's amazing. I feel like it's a little museum each time, right? Yeah. So cool. And I've got to figure out, what am I going to do with all that stuff? I'm like, Mom, you have to catalog it because I don't know what the stuff is actually worth, right? So, well, awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to being able to spending quality time again sometime soon. I feel that in the next 6 months to, a year, we should return back to normal.
I hope so.
Yeah, and I wish nothing but prosperity for you guys, and we're going to make sure that we let everybody in Reston know that you guys are still there.
Still there. We're not going anywhere. People say, "Oh, I'm so glad you're still here." We're not going anywhere. Like I say, very pleasant way to make very little money. So that's not why we're here.
And you guys live right there on the plaza as well, or close by? We
live in Waterview, which is a cluster next door to the plaza.
Oh yeah. Excellent.
Live, work, and play. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. We're in Hickory Cluster, so we're not too far away.
Across the street. Yep.
Across the street. Well, wonderful. Susan, thank you so much for sharing time with me today. And I know Reston Digs, our audience is going to love it. Good. And again, Reston Used Bookshop, you guys got to go visit as soon as everybody opens up. But even, it sounds like you could still go today, right now, family can go in and privately shop, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Themselves.
And
Yeah.
come on snow days. We have lots of kids that hang out on snow days. It's cozy. And we have snowball fights out front.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that.
Okay, Susan. Thank you so much. You
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.